Welcome, listeners. This is Still Here, Still Talking. I'm Karen,
And I'm Julie.
and most of us have heard of love languages, right? Although many may not have actually heard of the hidden language of apologies.
Saying I'm sorry oftentimes makes me feel, I don't know, vulnerable.
I understand that. So, tell me about how that has made you feel vulnerable.
Yeah, it comes from a little background, family background. I like to start from the
Okay.
beginning.
Okay.
Um,
I was born.
I was born in Portland. No, I'm kidding. Um, so a little background. My mother, and I hate to put the blame on things, but the truth is my mother always had a really difficult time giving apologies and taking apologies.
Oh,
I remember many times saying I was sorry and it would be followed up with, it'd be followed up with, no, you're not, or it just I never felt good. Every time I tried to apologize to my mother, I always felt like it wasn't enough.
hmm. Is there more to that about how
Well,
that came about?
well, I always felt like it was never enough, so I stopped apologizing and I started doing action. I tried to get approval by helping her out, by doing things, by doing more, by actions and service.
Oh, yeah. I understand that. And I know that we talked about it in another episode about how you worked hard around the house, doing things for your mother all the time. So was this like in response to some of the times that you feel like what you're describing is that you weren't getting acknowledged, you weren't getting the apologies that you felt you might have, needed to have?
Well, I didn't know it at the time, but now when I look back as I'm getting older and I look back at my own behaviors and my own behaviors
Mm-hmm.
and choices, I realized that, you know, I started to do more and more. I became a people pleaser to try and please her.
Yeah.
When things did arise, like nobody apologized in my home. Everything just got
Yeah.
put into the rug.
Well, what's interesting is about what you're saying is actually two different forms of the languages of apologies. The first one is that you're describing is how your mother was behaving, and that's the silent apology. That's pretending like everything is okay, nothing happened, and there's no acknowledgement whatsoever that there needs to be an apology. There's no acts of service, there's no, action done, there's no words put out there to say, hey, I did this and I'm sorry. And then your response, what you're describing, is actually the protective apology, where you learned not to say I'm sorry. You learned not to do that because and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but tell me if this is true for you, is that saying I'm sorry would have made you feel like you were weak or vulnerable, and so you became more attentive to doing extra work. You worked harder around the house. You did more things for her. You became unusually kind, or, you just did everything you possibly could to avoid conflict.
It's so true. And when I apologized and I didn't get the results that I thought I should get, like, like, okay, honey, that's okay, or some sort of validation, I learned
Yeah.
just to, I never got validation. And I felt like I was a bad person. So I wanted to make up for my
Mm,
actions instead of saying I'm sorry. I needed to do better in my actions. And I kind of just avoided the whole I'm sorry.
yeah. So that's you're absolutely describing two of the different types of languages of apologies. And there's many other different types of apologies. And so you felt uh did you feel that this carried over, right, into your adulthood?
Absolutely carried over. It's the things when we learn, like they say, whatever. It just was a history that I had with my mother and my family and the way I grew up and the dynamics. She
Hmm.
didn't, I don't know. She probably learned it in her family. I have no idea. All I do know that the two times, I remember two distinct times that she actually made a formal apology, and even more so, she
Yeah.
explained to me what she was sorry for. Had such an impact, and it stayed with me. So on one hand, I feel vulnerable when I need to apologize. To apologize, I feel vulnerable. And on the other side, I do know how powerful it is to make an apology.
Mm. Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because I'm going to give a story about like work where I didn't want an apology. So you're saying about how you felt you needed to have that validation for getting an apology from somebody, right? And then
Right.
there was an incident that's the complete opposite that happened to me at work, at one of my jobs, where I didn't need to have the validation and I didn't want or need the apology. And it is basically is that I was working for this construction company and I was taking care of the books, but also there was a partner of my boss that he had a partner and he was in another location and he was having access to the books. Well, I started noticing things weren't quite lining up. So I did a complete audit of the books and I ended up writing a report to show that the partner had embezzled a significant amount of money. It was in the six figures. And I wrote up the report, gave it to him, to my boss, and he basically dismissed it. And I was just like, okay, that is not cool. And some of the actions were completely illegal. I mean, one, it is embezzlement, but there was some other things that were going on.
Mm.
And I ended up leaving the company because of some of these unethical things that were occurring.
Yeah,
And
I
that wasn't
remember
just the
that.
one. Yeah, it was extremely upsetting to me about the unethical behavior.
Yeah.
So then it was like 2 years later, the person that was my boss who owed me a significant amount of money, he's making the last payment to me. And at this coffee shop where we met for him to give me my last check that he owed me, he sat there and said, "Oh, I owe you an apology." And I was like, "Yeah, what for?" And he's like, "Oh, the report you wrote up, for the partner embezzling." He says, "I took it to a CPA lawyer who took one look at your report and at the books and said, 'Yeah, she's right. What are you going to do about it?'" And he said, he looked at me and he said, "So I want to let you know that you were right. So I'm sorry. I thought you were wrong." And I looked at him and I
Mm.
said, I stood up and I said, "Well, I don't need your apology because I knew I was right."
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's one of those that sometimes we don't need the apology and we don't need that validation because, yeah, in that particular incident where what I just shared was I already knew I was right and I had not done anything wrong and he didn't really do anything wrong other than just not validating me, but I didn't need his validation. And what you described was, growing up with your mother and finding that she was not given the apologies, that you felt that, yes, you were not getting the validations, right?
Exactly. And I my little work story too is I was an overachiever at work because I felt any constructive criticism was like
Hmm.
it made me feel again, it made me I couldn't take it. It was like I just felt like I was a bad person. So or when they, any constructive criticism, I couldn't take it in and say, "Oh, okay, I understand. I'm sorry." No, I just worked harder. I just worked and worked and worked. That's what I do. I just, again, putting things under the rug.
Yeah. And there's other different types of languages of apology. I mean, there's oh, what is there? Oh, there's the defensive apology. That's
Mm,
when an individual is unfortunately, many people do this because they don't realize that there's actually some type of structure to saying, an apology. And this is, and because I know I've done it, and I know that other people do this when they're saying, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm
Mm,
sorry you got angry. You know, and that's a shift of responsibility. You have a story about that, don't you?
I do. I have a story. Unfortunately, it kind of a relationship with a close friend
Yeah.
ended abruptly, and well, it always had some issues, I must say, but um, it ended on. I told her I was sorry for the way she felt, and
Mm.
that sorry did not go well, as Karen
Mm-hmm.
was explaining, because I put it back on her. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, I said, I'm sorry about the way you feel, which made everything back on her. And I wasn't
Mm.
really taking responsibility, which at the time I did not understand that. And unfortunately, she didn't apparently know me well enough that she took it wrong, Karen.
Yeah.
And I
And
feel
and
bad,
that
but I learned.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. A lot of people do that. They'll say, "Oh, I'm so sorry you got upset," because they are genuinely upset, apologizing for the way they made you feel, but that's not how they said it. Um, I mean, English language is difficult, even for those of us that are that's our first language. But saying the word you actually shifts the blame.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a defense apology because now the person feels like, well, you're defending yourself by saying I'm responsible. That's how the recipient of the apology receives it. When in reality, you're not really saying that, but it comes across that way.
Yeah.
So I learned a long time ago, like with my father teaching me how to say apologies, was that you say I. I am responsible. I am sorry. I did that action that created an upset. You don't
Mm-hmm.
say you did this. And the other word that's okay to say that I learned is that you can say, I am sorry that your interpretation, your is not as bad as saying you. But definitely you got to say I. I am responsible. I feel I did this, such as saying here, take this for an example.
Yeah.
Saying, um, here's an apology that's called a complete apology. This is where you're
Okay.
using words and actions and you say, I was wrong. I hurt you. I understand why you're upset. See, I'm not saying you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying you're upset. That's okay. I don't expect immediate forgiveness, and here's what I'm going to do differently.
I
That's a
understand, Karen.
perfectly good example, right?
It is. And those, when I was sharing earlier about my mother, that I remember her giving
Mm-hmm.
me two apologies, those are the kind of apologies that she gave me. They were
Oh, beautiful.
apologized. She said, I'm sorry. And she went into why, and that she understood me and she's sorry. And those will stay with me all my life. And they stay within me. And I do know
Right.
it is important for me. I'm just glad that she gave me that gift, because
Oh,
even though I'm a work in progress, she gave me that gift of a couple complete apologies, and how powerful they can mean,
yeah,
that they're just so
absolutely.
powerful, Karen.
Yeah, and because one of the things that that complete apology does is that it gives the acknowledgement, like what you just said, it gives the acknowledgement that yes, they are the ones responsible for what happened, and you're responsible for your own reaction to it, but it is they're taking the responsibility for it from the very beginning. And when they give that complete apology, like your mother giving you that complete apology on those two occasions, it actually rebuilds the trust.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
And
so
the yeah.
lessons
And that
learned.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's other types of apologies, like me getting back with my husband. One of the things that I recognized with him, it took me a while because I'm not used to it, and that is that he does what we call the service apology, which
Mm.
is an apology through acts of love, which is a different type of language, languages of love, but he does that through service, through the acts. Like he will, if he's done something that he feels he needs to apologize for, he doesn't say, I'm sorry, um, which upset me for many years. But once I learned his language, it's not so upsetting to me anymore because what he'll do is he'll go and do these acts, these actions, such as bring me a cup of coffee or
Mm,
goes out and fixes my car or makes me dinner. So he does actions.
I love that, Karen.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
Um,
definitely a sign of love and respect.
yeah. Yeah. And so some of the other and thank you for that, Julie, very much. Some of the other um languages of apology, I'm not going to go through a whole list because there are a lot of them, um, is that is definitely when a person just changes their behavior. They're not necessarily saying I'm sorry, those words, but they're going to change their behavior. Um, and that is, for example, if somebody keeps walking into your house wearing dirty shoes and puts the debris all over your rug and the rug gets destroyed. So, two things can happen here. One is that they gift you a new rug because they destroyed the old one, but then they also start taking their shoes off outside. So they're doing the two different things. They've changed their behavior and they gave you a gift, replacing what they destroyed. So those are apologies, even though the person may never have said, Hey, I'm sorry I did this. No, they just went and took care of it. And so once we start recognizing that there's all different kinds of ways that an individual apologize, then we can start viewing the person differently and do not harbor resentment. Because if we feel like we're not being validated, we can start feeling resentful towards that person, right?
Exactly. And we'll have a podcast on resentments too, believe us. But I guess we just want to let you know your stories to our listeners. Your stories matter. Your voice matters. Reach out anytime. Our email address is still here, still talking at yahoo.com.
Yeah. And I would like to say that, ask the question to our audience. What language of apology do you speak? And what language of apology do you need to hear or see?
We'd love to hear you.
Yeah, love to hear from you. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We appreciate you. We're still here, still talking. We're not experts, we're just experienced.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.